parents were going through a lot of grief and a lot of conflict between themselves on how to handle it. They had to be on the same page. And I started to recognize that they had gotten on the same page pretty early on. They figured out a way. It was kind of some kind of psychological jiu-jitsu or something that they learned in stand-up parenting that allowed them to kind of take what I was the nasty negative forces that I was throwing at them and turn it into a positive thing for them, and keep me from at least destroying them and their relationship. They gave me enough rope to not to fully strangle myself, but at least to allow me to hit the bottom that I needed to hit and face the consequences of my own behavior. Probably a couple of years into the stand-up parenting techniques before I realized that I needed to truly change some of the things that I was doing. And I think that came about directly as a result of them allowing me to face my consequences of my actions. I think stand-up parenting provided a support network for my parents, that it was people facing the same challenges that they were facing, and it gave them the courage and the strength to go ahead and follow through with some of the things that they needed to do, but they probably couldn't have done on their own. Well, I have told my parents this face-to-face before, and I will probably tell them again how grateful I am for them finding the strength and the courage to do what they needed to do.
I think coming from the dysfunctional family that I did come from was what made it imperative to me to stay active with stand-up parenting. And through that, there were so many things that you would learn and glean from each other. And my stand to this day is still not to do for other people what they can and should do for themselves. We had such a camaraderie that it wasn't just that you could call when you needed to sound off or when you needed to cry or meet for coffee. We extended beyond our weekly night meetings. We would meet on Saturdays, whoever could make it, for breakfast. And the camaraderie and friendship and sharing of successes with each other, but just being there for each other. Even in a group where you met for breakfast, you'd still run around the table at the end and touch base with whatever problem child was from that family.
What we learned was so absolutely invaluable. It truly was, and it transcends your family or your kid. It just kind of works for every relationship. You know, because his emotions control our house and everything was about him. And if he wasn't around, then we were obsessing about him or talking about him and what to do about him. And that you just need to take care of your own emotions and then let their consequences be their consequences, not yours, or the way you'd like them to be or behave. So that, I think, is for me, life-changing. Still is.
If we hadn't gone to stand-up, we say this many times, we've said this many times, we probably wouldn't be standing here together as a family. We were pretty sure we would have been headed for divorce. That much.
And that first week, I think we went to 2 or 3 meetings.
Went to 2 meetings.
2 meetings. Cried through all of them, just. Yeah. But one thing, walking in there, I knew that these people had been through what you'd been through, and they were compassionate, and they understood it. And you feel like nobody understands what you're going to. It's like you can't tell anybody or talk about it.
And that's kind of the difference between going to, say, a professional counselor and going to a group like stand-up, because they're not composed of professional counselors. They're composed of parents who've been in your shoes, who have been through the struggles, who have been in the trenches, who have dealt with the problems, who have dealt with the difficult children, who have dealt with the defiance with the drug use and all of those issues. If you have had the problem, there is probably a parent somewhere in the group that has dealt with that issue or some similar issue that can help you through, and that's one of the great, blessings and resources of the group. One of the greatest gifts of stand-up parenting is the realization that a good portion of the problems that were created in your household can be fixed by you, the parent, not necessarily by fixing your child, but by fixing you, the parent, and by fixing your relationship with your child and the way that you view your child.
But I think you learn to let go a lot, and that's what that group teaches you. You know, pick your battles and let go, because they're their own person and they're going to choose certain things that they're just simply going to choose.
And we need better tools to do it. And that's what StandUp Parenting helps us do. It gives us better tools. And once we learn those better tools, we do better. And once we do better, our kids start to do better. And that's the way it works.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I'm a school nurse in a middle school. As a nurse, the reason I think stand-up parenting is so important is there's so many parents struggling now with getting their children to school with behaviors where they're staying in the basement and won't come out, with addiction issues, with just defiance and some violence. And it's really hard for parents they need some place to go for support with that. The key tools that StandUp Parenting offers to help parents encourage responsible behavior is primarily that it just helps parents make a plan and make a plan for a change in their own behavior so that perhaps then the child will change their behavior. A lot of it has to do sometimes with getting a little bit more consistent or firm, and sometimes it has to do with lightening up a little bit and not being so strong. But either way, stand-up parenting will give parents support to make the changes that they need to make.
I think our son was 28. We hadn't wasted any time at all. When he was in high school, we were
counselors and rehab and
rehab
family counseling
and rehab.
Everything. We went to all sorts of things.
We were trying anything that would work. And this, they were having success. Why shouldn't we? Our son's behavior taxed the whole family.
It was interesting to hear the problems of others and think, well, we've got nothing to worry about. These people have really got disasters on their hands. Yeah. But
and that we were not alone. That it seemed like a lot of people who really had their lives together were just, their kid was creating all kinds of turmoil.
We learned to stop being so darn helpful. Every time he was in a problem, we were right there ready to help him get out of it. And we learned that that's not helping. That's just prolonging the whole problem.
For me, I think it was we had a little flashcard that we would carry around with us when the phone would ring. Our son would tell us the latest disaster that he was in. And instead of jumping to run down and save him, we would both say, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We still love you."
I'm sure you can figure it out. Mm-hmm. What would have happened to him?
Well, he was in jail.
That was the worst call when he finally was arrested for whatever knows he did, and called me at work. "Mom, can you please come bail me out of jail?" And I said, "No, I can't. I'm sorry."
It was not so hard, really, to talk to our son. The hard part was for both of us to get on the same page at the same time, so that he was hearing in stereo from both of us
The same message.
"Gosh, I'm sorry you're having a problem. We love you. We're sure you'll figure it out."
Well, having a strong and healthy family now feels great. It is so nice to know that we can see where we have been and we're not there anymore. And it's good to know that we've learned it's okay to say no. It's okay to let them fall down and figure it out for themselves.
Because everybody living a healthy life has hardships that they have to work through. And having our son have those capabilities now, he is living a healthy family life because he knows that when hardships come up, it's his responsibility to deal with them. We can't bail him out anymore. That builds a real healthy family. Stand Up helped us all the way through by teaching us to always reinforce everything we did by saying, we still love you. We still care about you.
But we can't fix this for you. You have to fix this yourself.
We didn't create it. We don't own it. We can't fix it. But we still love you, and we know that you can take care of it yourself.
Our son was 16 when we first started going to Stand Up. He had had issues with drinking, smoking, hanging out with the wrong crowd. When we actually went to Stand Up, he was in a residential facility in Texas for issues, and we felt like we needed to go, or we weren't. If we didn't make some changes when he came home, we thought things would go right back to the way we were. I think the program for me first made me see that I wasn't the only parent that had a kid who was messing up. There were a lot of other people there as well, people that I had never met before. They were having similar problems. It also gave me some direction of things that I could do right off the bat, things like some hints I could take home with me and start helping out.
For me, it was probably realizing that I needed to step back and let our son suffer the natural consequences of his actions and behavior. I didn't think we were rescuers, but in hindsight, we probably did more of that than we should have. Mm-hmm. Understanding that there are natural consequences and that for every action there's a reaction, and letting him deal with the consequences of his actions.
Okay, I can get some help. I can change things at home just from the hints that they gave us, and it helped it be more livable, more comfortable at home. And I noticed that. We have something kind of called one-liners and how to answer your child back without escalating the situation. I was a great escalator of the situation, and I would make it worse rather than better. And kind of, we called them one-liners and things you can say to your child to just kind of neutralize the situation, and those were a huge help.
And that's so important, and that's one of the things that Stand Up tries to do, is to try to get parents on the same page. Sometimes when we walk through the door, we're not even in the same book. And getting them at least in the same book and on the same page is so helpful. I think we were really close to the same page, if not even the right paragraph. So I think we were fortunate.
I would agree with you.
Our son's he's a wonderful husband, parent, and child, mm-hmm. and we enjoy spending time with him. He's worked very hard to get his life together, and he's done a very good job. Yep. And I'm so happy for him.
Mm-hmm. I think by, always talking about looking at the positive things in your kid, too. They're having issues, but if you just dig and find those positives, and you'd see more and more of them. It got to a point with our son that he was telling people he knew, your parents are having problems with you. They need to go to StandUp Parenting. He was kind of our best advocate mm-hmm. for a while.
He was out recruiting frequently.
Yeah, he was.
Mm-hmm.
We were fighting all the time. We would probably be divorced today if we hadn't have gone to that first meeting. It pretty much changed our life and changed our son's life, and I never thought I would be able to be in the same room with him and have a decent conversation, and we're the best of friends now, and I love that. I'm not sure where my son would be today if we hadn't participated. I just know that we gained a lot of strength and peace from it, and I think that came through to him.
And so he has that with him today and is more sure of himself and has become a great person.
We were at our wits' end, and she drugged me to our first meeting at StandUp Parenting, and then I felt relief that first night.
And it was great because the group would come up with different strategies that I could try each week, and I just kept trying them till I found one that worked.
Our turning point was when we took back control of the house and gave him his life and let him deal with natural consequences for his actions. And we turned our life around, and because of the natural consequences, he turned his life around.